Welcome to the Lily Grace Lifestyle podcast, Paige. I'm so glad that we met through our dear friend Lucas, who's fabulous and amazing. But thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like we met at a very transformative time, and I'm so inspired by what you do. And the first question that I ask my guests is, what defines your lifestyle?
I love that, and I'm so excited to be here and in Massachusetts recording. My lifestyle, I would say I've really focused on balance and also living like a free-spirited lifestyle. Balance and free spirit, I feel like for me are like the two that go hand in hand.
Yes, and we're here by our cozy fireplace. It's like a fireside chat.
I feel
love
like
it.
that.
And you really inspire me because you call yourself a digital nomad, and for people who are listening who might have heard of that term but don't know quite what that means, can you describe that to us?
Yes, so I've been living nomadically. So I'm from Massachusetts and I've been traveling for the past 3 years, so no set home base per se, and living month to month, sometimes a few months, traveling the world. And the digital nomad piece is working remotely, so it has always been my dream to be a digital nomad. I remember in college being like, will I be able to work remotely and travel? And that was always my goal. So digital nomad to me means the freedom to work and live wherever you want within the world.
And where are some places in the world that this journey has taken you so far?
Yes, so I booked a one-way ticket in 2021 to Oahu in Hawaii. Wow. And was very open to what that experience would bring me to. I was thinking this could be 1 month and then I go back to Boston and get an apartment in Boston, depending on how I like it and feel. It might be 6 months and then I keep extending. It might be I move to Oahu, but I studied abroad in Australia, and Oahu was kind of the closest next option during COVID that I could go to within the U.S. And from there, I loved it, and I loved the nomadic lifestyle and felt I really thrived in it as well. So just giving myself the space to decide was important. And then from there, met a group of girls who also were working remotely, and we all started traveling. So I went to Mexico and Panama and Costa Rica, and then all throughout Europe, and South Africa is where I've spent the most amount of time.
That's amazing. And you mentioned in there giving yourself space to decide. Can we break that down a little bit? A lot of people, probably everyone listening, works a 9-to-5 job. We're in this American grind that's a little bit exhausting and can be anxiety-ridden sometimes. But how are you able to give yourself the space to decide on your next steps during this journey?
Yeah, so I think more time in solitude, especially if you have ideas that you think you might want to live this lifestyle, has helped me. So I remember in my hometown having this dream and desire, but not knowing anyone in my bubble who had created this lifestyle for themselves before. So it was podcasts, books, Instagram connections with other girls who I felt like I could see myself in, who have done it before, mentors, but resources like this one, I would just really listen to and flood my own thoughts with content like this of people who have done it, because it is possible. So just giving yourself environments where you can learn and be exposed to that.
Yeah. And when we were chatting before, it sounds like August this past year was a big month for you in many different ways. Can you share with us kind of what led you to that point in your journey?
Yeah. So 2024, we're right at the end of it. It probably has been one of my hardest yet best years yet, and I think it is just a transformative year for me. And for the last 3 years I've been nomading, and I was living in South Africa, Cape Town, for 10 months, or 10 months total, 7 months this past year. And I went to a retreat in March that was no service, lots of solitude, breathwork, meditation, talks, lots within the spirituality space that for me shifted a lot. And that week after the retreat, it activated something within me where I had this really strong desire to leave my corporate job, and it wasn't like it's just this passing thought. It was like, this is my gut. You need to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I took that leap of faith and like listened to it. And I was like, I've worked 9 to 5 throughout 3 years of nomading in like a sales job that led me able to save money and had this privilege and advantage to be able to take that space and that break. So took off some months to just be able to be more present and travel, which was amazing and totally shifted my experience with travel. So if anyone has the opportunity to travel without necessarily also working full time, I recommend it. And from there were a lot of hard months of questioning what I wanted to do, what the reason was for leaving, just a ton of growth and going more inward. And August timeline was when the idea came to the surface of the new creation I wanted to start and the business, which is the Ripple Effect, which is empowering soul-led people, humans, creators to start building their brands authentically, specifically on LinkedIn, to empower others on that platform, and then essentially a ripple effect on the whole world to step into their authentic selves, to potentially live an alternative life, but also like embracing their multidimensional self. And I just learned through all of my ups and downs and journeys, posting authentically on LinkedIn has been that one constant for me. So when I chose to leave my corporate job, I posted about it. A month that was really hard and I was emotional or going through it, I would post about it, and from there like really crafted my aligned opportunities rather than like applying and seeking them out. It's like you attract the next opportunity for yourself.
That's so beautiful, because I feel like when we're in the space of letting our old selves go, or a piece of ourselves that identified us so strongly, it's painful, and it's like you're going through grief, and what you want to do is just chase things and apply to things and just get whatever you can. But it's really nice that you were able to be like, no, I'm just gonna put myself authentically out there and let it come to me.
Yeah,
that's so wise. It's beautiful.
It's definitely difficult, and you're vulnerable, and you also are showing up on such a polished platform. Like, you show up to share a promotion, you show up to share a new job, you show up to share a raise, all of these like positives. So to show up and share this other side, everyone's going through it. It's just a question of if people are sharing it. So stepping into that. And then for me, I did it alone, and I even did this in a space when I was working in like enterprise sales, tech sales, where I was a young female in a space on LinkedIn. I still showed up that way. So for me now, it's important to support others to show up that way and create a community. So there's community cohort, which brings everyone together who feels like-minded, to empower them to show up too.
That's amazing. And how has your mindset shifted since you took this leap of faith on yourself and really have just dived into the ripple effect movement that you're creating?
Yeah, it's empowering when you go from just a thought to something that you're creating. And I mean, I'm young, like I'm 25, so I'm like, if I'm going to take risks, it's now. And I felt the same way when I went to travel and creating an offer, starting to travel, like all of these scary moments came on the other side of just doing it. So nothing that I've done that's been rewarding hasn't been scary. And I keep thinking back to when I went to study abroad, when I went to travel, and what came on the other side was like more fulfillment and more alignment. So for me, when I knew I felt most satisfied at my last job, it was like time to move on to something bigger and better, and just trusting all of the little like intuition like nudges and then going along with those.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like it's hard for young people, especially with social media, to listen to our intuition and kind of actually act upon our gut feelings because we have so much noise. But it's interesting too, because in a sense we both like are on these platforms to create beauty and share advice and our wisdom that we've learned throughout our travels and our times in the world. But how do you then tap back into yourself and actually listen to who you are?
Yes.
Because I feel like so many people are just distracted.
Yeah, there's so much noise, and it's funny because I feel like we're always adding more things. Like, what can I buy to make myself better? What can I add? And for me, it was a question of like, what can I take away? Because we're always trying to have this new fix. We always want to make it happen quicker. But sometimes it's like, what layers can you take away so that you get more back to like the core of who you are?
That's beautiful.
And that came for me through retreats and through breath work and through meditation and then mentors. So that big step for me was like investing in a mentor. And there was this block of like, well, I'm in this transformative pivotal spot. I just left my job. Like, am I going to invest in a retreat? Am I going to invest in a mentor when I just left something that was stable? And that was really where that shift happened for me. So
that's awesome.
Those like 5 things I would say, like breathwork, meditation, retreats, mentor, and time in nature too is really big for me.
That's amazing. And I screenshotted one of your posts on LinkedIn that you wrote recently, because I want people to get an essence for what your story is and how your voice sounds on LinkedIn, because it's very different, like you said, than the normal ad or promotion. You said not everything has to be about the shiny big things, the 10K months, the 5 new countries visited in a few weeks, the new house, the new car, the new job, etc. Here are 10 things I did in 2024 that were not on my vision board, but were damn important. And this taps into what you just mentioned. I slowed down. I cried and felt a lot, which, girl, I get that. I did too. I slept more than I ever have. I took a pause from traveling, which I want to get into after.
Yes.
I stayed consistent. I cut out alcohol. I get that too. I don't drink. I tried new things like breath work. I learned to love downtime. I did more things alone. And I understood the importance of healing. Sometimes the smaller, unexpected actions and the ones people can't see are the real wins. As you prepare for 2025 goals, I offer you to pursue a feeling rather than a direct, tangible goal, like joy, peace, love, nervous system regulation, abundance. And then you ask, what did you achieve this year that wasn't on your goal list? And that made me stop and think. And I wanted to bring it onto the show because I think it's really empowering and shows that not all wins in life have to be tangible. Money, houses, cars, things. A lot of these wins that you had, there's no real essence to them. It's just like who you are and choices that you decided to make.
Yes.
Like taking a pause from traveling, that was your whole identity for 3 years. And then why did you decide to pause from that, and what did you get out of that?
Yes. Which that came along too with the shift of identity, because I found that you put labels on yourself. So it's like, I am a marketer, I am a tech sales worker, I'm a top performer, I'm a digital nomad. And then once you like question these titles, so it was like, I left my corporate job, I stopped traveling, so was I a digital nomad, was I not? It's this whole identity shift.
Yes.
And it's like, who am I without these labels? And that was like really what I wanted to focus in on, is like, what type of person am I? How do I cultivate like peace, love, and joy without all of these labels and titles? And how do I find purpose beyond necessarily like titles, which was really interesting and came from retreats and came from meditation and just questioning that. But for me, it was just, I had traveled for 3 years and I got a lot out of it, but I found I was creating a lot of connections like all over the world, which was amazing. And you meet someone in 24 hours, you're like connected forever, and these are connections I'll have forever. But then it's like, how do you begin to go deeper? I was craving like more roots or community, and I found that in South Africa. But I wasn't at the point where I was going to choose to move to South Africa, so I was hoping at this point to go back to Massachusetts and reconnect with family and have more like roots and a foundation here. And then also just to balance, like back to that core value of mine. It's like, in the beginning of when I started nomading, my priorities was like independence, travel, newness. And then it was this switch towards like slowing down, like inner peace, like quieting the noise, and like more solitude. And also, depending on how you travel, it's very much like, I always think of it like expanding and contracting, and it's like an expansion to travel, and then a contraction is like wherever you choose to go back to, but like going more inward to like absorb everything you just learned.
That's so cool.
So it was more like an expansion and contraction. So it was like a contraction period to like
That's so
focus.
Interesting. I love the way that you describe that because it's so true. Yeah. Because obviously you're broadening your world and your perspectives, but then you have to come back to yourself and kind of reflect on that and take the things and the pieces that you've learned to create your inside puzzle that you're trying to put together.
Yes.
That's
and
so
to
cool.
like focus time, I feel like the ripple effect, I don't know if I was still traveling, my focus would be travel. So I don't know if it would have came to fruition if I had so much noise and activities and new people that was my priority, or you have less stability. So everything is changing, like your location, your time zone, your food.
Yeah.
That like when I came back to Massachusetts, I had more foundations of like familiarity and family and things I just knew that those were this foundation to then build upon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast episode. Without you, I would not be where I am today. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and follow the podcast. And if you haven't already checked out my vlog formatted videos, please do. There I show exclusive behind the scenes on my lifestyle, my routines, my travels, friends, business, relationships, etc. And it's the more laid back, low-key version of the life. Stay tuned for more, and thank you so much again. And let's get back into this amazing episode. Yeah, you had some grounding energy to just kind of think on. That's so cool. And a lot of these things, like crying a lot, that is so raw and real. Like on Instagram, I mean on LinkedIn, like people don't really share that, but I think that's so beautiful because girl, I did too.
And it's important. Like the retreats I've been to, we have such a stigma around crying when it's actually a sign of breakthroughs or emotional intelligence. Totally. So it's like, how can we normalize this more on a platform like LinkedIn where people are growing on a platform like that, and it takes time. It requires emotions to be able to grow, and even if you're a successful founder, it's like you for sure have gone through ups and downs. Yeah. And to honor that, it brings out those traits in other people. Like when you can show up vulnerably on a platform like LinkedIn, it allows others to do the same. Right, and attracts the right people and kind of pushes away the ones that don't agree with this, which is a beautiful thing. And downtime, as we were saying, is so important, doing things alone. Yeah, and even the alcohol thing, that's amazing too. I feel like a lot of people our age are thinking of being, they're sober curious, I've heard this word. But I've been drinking since I think 2 or 3 years ago, and it's very... it's nice because there's no buffer in your social, settings, and you're not allowed to hide, quote unquote, behind this, substance, and it's very freeing. Yes. I found the same, and I found if you break down the reasons for why you're drinking, it like, most people don't think about it. They're like, it's fun, but then it's like, why? There's something underneath it deep, normally, that it's like, you need it to be more social. You need it to cope with feelings. You drink when you're stressed. It's like all of these layers you don't really realize. Totally. Or it's fun, but it's like, how can you find something else that gives you that same feeling that's healthier? Like for me, I have experienced crazy sensations and feelings through like somatic breath work and those journeys that people who are drinking probably could try and see like some other euphoria sensation that's not related to alcohol. Totally. That's so cool. And you have been taking all of this new ripple effect and bringing it into places like Modern Wellness Spa in Framingham, where Lucas had an event, which I was so sad I couldn't go to. I had another event that day. Yes. But can you talk to us about how you're taking this beautiful knowledge and wisdom and this enterprise into spaces like Modern Wellness and around the world? Yeah, so Modern Wellness Spa, which is in Framingham, which is my hometown. When I moved back from traveling and living abroad, it was like 1 minute from my hometown. So it was like, or from my parents' house. So it was weird timing of just like, okay, I'm going to spend my time here while I'm going through this transition of figuring out where I'm going to live. And it was so healing for me, and it attracted a lot of people that I got along with and had similar values. And I was talking to Lucas, who's one of the owners of Modern Wellness, and I've journaled my whole past probably 5 years, maybe longer, of everything. So there's no right or wrong way to journal, but for so many people, they don't even know where to start. So I had this idea of bringing like-minded people together for an event at the spa. So for part of it, we did a journaling session, which was around how to be your most authentic self. So I presented prompts towards people to then turn inward. So the power of journaling is that all of your answers are already within you. So we always turn towards podcasts or songs or movies where we have answers, but journaling, it's like, how do you give your own self-advice? So the prompts at that event at Modern Wellness was to help others have more clarity around who that is and how to live more authentically.
That's so beautiful. I think you could do that anywhere in the world. We're all looking for those answers within ourselves, and it seems like just the big themes that I'm seeing in the past few months for you, it's just like writing has been a beautiful medium for you to just express yourself. You said you had a podcast, and you might bring that back here and there, and obviously you're on Instagram, but I feel like writing for you has been a really pivotal thing, whether it be sharing how to write with others or just these beautiful messages on LinkedIn. I think that's amazing. It's like you're the Carrie Bradshaw. It's like the Sex and the City column, but like the Eat, Pray, Love version. I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I started like creating on TikTok and Instagram, and the videos are like a beautiful way to capture that. But for me, it's always been words, like lyrics of songs or writing myself and like what that does for me. And one of the prompts that we did at one of the events and that I give to a lot of people who are like on this journey of authentic living is like, what would your 85-year-old self tell you? And then what would your like 8-year-old self tell you? And like keep going back to those two prompts, because so many times we feel overwhelmed by giving ourselves advice.
That's
but if I take it off of my current moment and I'm like, what would my 80-year-old self say? What would my 8-year-old self say? It's still you, but it takes that pressure off, and then it helps you think a bit more big picture of okay, should I go home right now? Should I keep traveling? Like, what would this future me say? Or what would younger me say? Or would they be proud of you? What would they think?
That's beautiful. And it kind of reminds me, I just did this energy spirituality reading with this woman in Canada on Zoom actually, but she tapped into my subconscious and my inner being, and she was saying, if you think of like the now, like if you're journaling, obviously if you think of a timeline, there's the past and then there's the future, and here we are in the present. But then if you turn that timeline this way vertically, then you have the past and the future just all in one line, and that kind of is the visual representation of what you just said. It's like we can be our future selves, we can be our present selves, and we can be our past selves all in one moment that is now. And that's beautiful in how you translate it to journaling.
Yes.
So cool. Well, this has been so fun. What are your really exciting things that you're looking forward to for the new year? Because you took this leap of faith this year, which was probably really scary and just like terrifying, but you did it, and you're here now, and it sounds like you're gonna go back to South Africa. That's awesome.
So for Ripple Effect, it's obviously I have like that location freedom, so I'm excited because I've been working a 9-to-5 in the corporate space for the past years of travel, so it was amazing and lots of freedom, but it's really this next level, I feel like, of freedom where now I'm my own boss, I have my own rules in a way of the hours, so excited for just that newness and learning. And with the Ripple Effect, we have the cohort, so there's one current cohort happening right now, and then the next one will start at the beginning of April, and that's 3 months, and then in between there we have masterminds, so there's one happening January 2nd, so soon, and then another one in January, so those are all just free for the community, for anyone to come to, so resources I wish I had when I started posting. So this one's around how to be authentic while still in corporate. That's the first one.
I like that.
And then one, spirituality on LinkedIn. And then the next one's like brand collabs on LinkedIn, and then we'll keep growing.
That's so cool.
And then, I go back to South Africa at the end of January.
Wow.
So I'll go back there for 3 months and see from there what happens.
So cool. I'm so excited for you, and I feel like I said at the beginning, we met at the this amazing time for both of us. It's cool that we collided thanks to Lucas.
Yes.
And for people listening, because I think for most people listening, they are creative and they're entrepreneurial, but they're still in corporate. And what you said about being, how to be authentic in the corporate world, I think that's a big struggle for a lot of people. They can't be their true selves, or they feel like they shouldn't be. What's the first step do you think that they should take in order to be able to feel like they can be authentic?
Yes, I would say I have a post about this on LinkedIn and on the Ripple Effect Instagram as well, but 5 things. 1, you have to know your authentic self before you can show up as it, which is a big thing. Everyone wants to show up as their authentic self, but it's hard to know that until you find it. So more time in solitude, time in nature, writing, like journaling, and once you get more comfortable with your own voice, then you are more able to then share it. So for me, before I posted on LinkedIn, it was like years of writing that content just for myself. And then it's that step of how do I show up that way? And finding community of other like-minded people who think the same has really helped me, which is also the idea of the cohort. Like, how do I bring together all these people who might feel different, who might feel like they don't belong on LinkedIn, who might feel like they have way too many ideas going on, multidimensional, they don't just have this one narrow path. How do you find others like that? That also helps. And then being bold and showing up authentically will, like, create this ripple where you can keep showing up that way. So the more I showed up boldly, the more I stepped into that true power. So it takes that first step of being authentic.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like anyone could take one of those things and do it today, whether it be journaling or just literally sitting with your own thoughts, which sounds so scary, but it's like true. That's the first step, is the awareness piece, and then bringing that and showing that to the world in your own medium, whether it be through art or words or visuals or voice or however you want to do it. But that's so cool. Well, thank you for your time. I feel like this has been so amazing. And how can people join your cohort or work with you or find you on LinkedIn?
So on LinkedIn, my name's Paige Goldstein, same with Instagram, and same with TikTok. And if you are interested in joining the next cohort or just getting in touch as well, learning more about the masterminds, the cohort, and just the overall mission of Ripple Effect, my own LinkedIn would be the best place to go. And there's just a link in bio about information on Ripple Effect. We also have an Instagram, which all the information will just live, so I don't like bombard my own personal Instagram with Ripple Effect. I was like, let me change this to just an Insta as well. So the Ripple Effect 444 is the Instagram. And that holds a bunch of information around authentic living, tips for founders, information directly about the cohort, but also just tips about authentic living and building your brand on LinkedIn.
Okay, this is amazing. I'm so excited to take so many of the nuggets of information that we talked about today into my own life, just moving forward. And it's just so inspiring, like what we were saying before, to find people who get it, and who are in this very niche space, and who are able to just bounce ideas and just stories off of each other, because we're not alone. It's so cool. And what is like one word or one thing that you are taking into the new year as kind of your mantra or theme?
I love that. For me, I would say surrender, which is a book that I read this year called Let Go, and the whole piece and premise was around surrendering. And same with, I'm in my yoga teacher training now, and the whole theme has been around surrendering and just trusting the process of listening. There's a surrender, but it's like intentionally surrendering. It's not like you're just giving up, but it's more of like, how do you trust and like flow with this process of life?
That's beautiful.
So flow, surrender, kind of both.
That's amazing. Surrender was my word this year.
Wow.
That's awesome. And I think for me, taking things away and saying no is my theme for next year, because I need to have that solitude or the quietness in order to focus. But surrender is beautiful, and I feel like it's always a journey, and it's always in motion to kind of try to find that place. So it's really cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad we met today. And we'll definitely have to keep in touch, and maybe someday we'll meet in like Oahu or
Bali
wherever
on
we
your
go next.
future
I know.
trip.
Yeah,
Yes.
so wherever the world takes us. But
Yes.
thank you, Paige.
Yeah, thank you.